G'day everyone, Food with Fats. I'm Fats and today we're going to be talking about the things that you need at home before you start making your own sourdough bread. So I'm going to run through all the different bits of kit and ingredients that you will need to give yourself the best chance of success at making a fucking killer loaf of bread. The most critical thing you're going to need is some really good quality flour. So this is the flour that I'm using at the moment. It is organic, stone ground. Please go out and spend the money on sourcing some good quality flour. The white wing shit you get at the supermarket, fucking just doesn't cut it. It won't work. There's just not enough good stuff in that flour. It doesn't have the flavour profile. It won't have the gluten content of a baker's flour. So you need something with a high protein content to give you the elasticity and the structure in your bread. So when you look on the back of your packet of flour, it's going to tell you how much protein is in here. So for instance, this has per 100 grams has 14.5 grams of protein per 100 grams of flour. That's what we would consider quite a high protein flour. So it is going to give you a very good structure. It's going to be able to hold itself. One of those packet flours in the supermarket, they're generally only around 8 or 9% protein, and they will just not do the job. The second thing that you're going to need is your leavening agent. Now, a leavening agent is what we use when we're making bread to make the bread rise. We are going to be using a sourdough starter. This one I have just fed a couple of hours ago, so it's not really doing anything. But in a few hours' time, this will be bubbling and active and really frothy and going everywhere. Two other ingredients in bread are water, comes out of the tap, and salt. So I use Murray River pink salt for absolutely everything. You can find this salt at pretty much any deli that you go to of any reputable quality. If you're looking for bulk Murray River pink salt, I can suggest looking up and finding the good guys at Nicholson and Saville, and they will definitely look after you when it comes to Murray River pink salt. To make the actual loaf, there's a few other bits of kit that you're going to need. So, key are a set of digital scales that weigh in grams. Please don't use cup measures or teaspoons or tablespoons. You're going to need a dough knife. So this is literally from any kitchen store. It's a little piece of folded knife, like a little folded steel or aluminium. You can use a paint scraper, like a thick kind of 4 to 6 inch paint scraper you can find at Bunnings. They also work really well. So this is going to be helping you when you're shaping your dough and scraping it off the bench. You'll also need, this is more a dough scraper. This is a plastic flexible dough scraper. Again, any kitchen store will have these. Very useful when you want to take your dough out of a tub. Rather than using your hand, you will use a dough scraper to get it out onto your bench. Mixing bowls. So generally you'll have these banging around your kitchen, different sizes, sort of bigger bowls. I suppose these hold about 5 litres each, is a really good size if you're making dough for 2 or 3 loaves. The next really important piece of equipment are these dough baskets. Again, you can find these at most specialty kitchenware stores. I generally have one oval shaped basket and one round shaped basket. Cast iron pots. I have 2 shapes. So obviously the round dough gets cooked in the round pot like this. Take the lid off and show you. So that's a very heavy cast iron that can be used as a skillet, but again, it's like a casserole. You can use it that way or that way, and you don't have to just use it for bread. You can use it for any other cooking application. And then obviously the oval pot is for the oval loaf. The reason we use cast iron pots when we cook bread is because typically Commercial bakeries will use ovens that inject a lot of steam and a lot of moisture into the cooking chamber when they are cooking. This allows the bread to open up fully. It allows it to steam from the inside, giving a big rise and letting those pockets of air steam evaporate and giving that really big, open, beautiful texture. If you put a loaf of your sourdough straight in the oven, it would make a crust on it before it was allowed to open fully. So what we do is, instead of cooking in the oven, we cook it in a pot in the oven. What the pot does is mimics the same cooking conditions, or relatively close to the same cooking conditions as a commercial oven. So because it's a sealed lid, it creates, when the loaf heats up, it creates its own steam, therefore gives it sort of a very similar environment. So we cook it when we cook halfway with the lid on to give that first sort of 20 minutes of steaming, and then we take the lid off and cook it for the remaining, usually it's around 15 to 20 minutes, to give the colour and the crust. And by the time we take the lid off, the loaf has already risen and expanded fully, and we should be getting that beautiful open crumb, like the very light, airy, lots of air bubbles and that sort of stuff. Last bit of kit you need, and again, another flour, and it doesn't have to be this. This is semolina. So we don't use semolina necessarily for the bread, although it is very nice in the bread. So we use this to dust the baskets. You can either use semolina, you can use rice flour, you can use cornmeal or polenta, something like that. Something before we get the dough into the basket, we dust, so that when we turn out the bread, it doesn't stick. And guys, the last thing, and I forgot to mention, and probably a relatively important point if you're new to the concept of making naturally leavened or sourdough bread, is go and get yourself a book and do some reading. So if I can recommend one book that doesn't necessarily give you the recipe, although it does, but it sort of breaks down baking and sourdough or naturally leavened bread baking in a very kind of easy to digest manner, is this book here called Tartine Bread. It's by a guy called Chad Robertson, who started up his own bakery in San Francisco in the Mission District in California. I've been fortunate enough, I've visited that bakery and a couple of his other bakeries, and his bread is just fucking outrageous. Pretty much anyone who's anyone, if they're into baking, they know about this guy and they know about his bread. It's really informative. It's got some great recipes in it. So if there's one book that you can find it online, don't go to the shops because you'll probably get arrested on the way there at the moment. Get it online. It's a really informative, very easy to understand book and method around the principles around sourdough baking. So Tartine Bread by Chad Robertson. So guys, that's pretty much it. Go out, get online, get shopping, go buy some beautiful bread baking equipment. The next video that I do, I will show you guys how to start your own sourdough starter. I will then teach you how to feed it and maintain it so it is ready for you guys to begin your sourdough baking. That's it today. Food with Fats. I'm Fats. Be good. Wash your hands. Stay at home. See you next time.